My beloved brothers and sisters, many people believe that closeness to Allah must come with comfort, wealth, and companionship. But when we look at the lives of the prophets, the righteous, and those Allah truly loves, we often see the opposite: simplicity instead of luxury, loneliness instead of crowds, and hardship instead of ease. This is not a sign of Allah's neglect. It is a sign of His special care. Allah does not choose everyone for the same test. Some are tested with wealth, others with poverty. Some are surrounded by people, others are placed in solitude. Loneliness and lack are not punishments, they are classrooms where Allah refines the hearts He wants to raise. In isolation, faith deepens. In simplicity, attachment to the dunya weakens. So if you feel alone, unseen, or struggling, do not assume Allah has forgotten you. Sometimes it is precisely because He has chosen you that He removes distractions, comforts, and noise, so your heart belongs fully to Him. Allah tests His chosen with what purifies the heart. Allah does not test His chosen servants to break them, but to cleanse what weighs their hearts down. When a heart is purified, it becomes lighter, clearer, and closer to its Creator. Many people assume that hardship is a sign of rejection, but in truth, it is often a sign of attention. Allah looks at a heart that has sincerity, potential, and depth, and He refines it through tests that remove arrogance, attachment, and dependence on the dunya. Just as fire removes impurities from gold, trials remove what does not belong in the heart of a believer. The test may be painful, confusing, or lonely, but its purpose is mercy. Allah wants that heart to be free of pride, free of false security, and free of reliance on anything other than Him. Through hardship, the heart learns humility. Through struggle, it learns sincerity. Through patience, it learns trust. This is not punishment, this is purification. And once the heart is purified, it can carry a level of faith that comfort alone could never produce. Some hearts are tested because Allah knows they can carry the weight of closeness to Him. Ease does not always reveal who you truly are, but hardship does. When everything is stripped away, the heart shows its true orientation. Does it turn to Allah or does it collapse into complaint? Allah tests His chosen so their hearts turn fully toward Him. These tests expose weaknesses not to shame the believer, but to heal them. Many people carry hidden diseases in the heart. Pride, attachment, impatience, reliance on people, and hardship brings these to the surface. Once revealed, they can be treated. Without tests, these illnesses remain hidden, slowly damaging the soul. Allah, in His mercy, does not leave the heart untreated. He purifies it through experiences that awaken awareness and deepen faith. The pain is temporary, but the purification lasts a lifetime. Poverty, loss, rejection, and loneliness are not random tests. They are precise instruments of purification. Allah knows exactly what kind of test a heart needs. Some hearts are purified through loss because they were holding too tightly. Others are purified through loneliness because they relied too heavily on people. Some are purified through delay because they were becoming impatient. Allah tailors every test to the heart it is meant to cleanse. This precision is mercy. If Allah did not care, He would leave the heart as it is. But because He loves, He refines. Because He chooses, He tests. And because He tests, He elevates. The chosen are not spared difficulty, they are given meaningful difficulty. Difficulty that removes what distracts, weakens, and corrupts the heart. What remains after purification is a heart that knows Allah deeply. Many prophets lived lives filled with hardship, not because they were distant from Allah, but because they were closest to Him. Their hearts were being prepared to carry divine responsibility, truth, and guidance. Allah purified their hearts through rejection, isolation, and struggle so that nothing would stand between them and Him. This is a lesson for every believer. When you face hardship despite sincerity, do not rush to assume rejection. Ask instead what Allah is removing from your heart. Ask what He is teaching you to release. Very often, the pain you feel is the pain of detachment. Something is being pulled away so your heart can belong more fully to Allah. That pain is the sound of purification happening. Purification is rarely comfortable. If it were easy, every heart would accept it willingly. But growth demands friction. Allah knows that ease can sometimes make the heart careless while hardship keeps it awake. When the heart is tested, it remembers Allah more. It prays with sincerity. It calls with desperation. It lowers itself with humility. These moments polish the heart in ways that comfort never could. A heart purified through hardship becomes soft, compassionate, and deeply aware of its dependence on Allah. It no longer judges others easily. It no longer chases status or praise. It becomes content with Allah alone. That is the heart Allah wants. When Allah tests His chosen, He also protects them from spiritual ruin. Excess comfort can distract, harden, and corrupt the heart. Tests keep the heart grounded. They remind the believer of reality, of mortality, of purpose. The heart begins to see beyond appearances and values what truly matters. This clarity is a gift. Many people have everything yet feel empty. Others have little yet feel full. The difference is purification. A purified heart finds richness in faith, not possessions. Peace in reliance, not control. Strength in patience, not dominance. Sometimes the test is long and the heart grows tired. But Allah never purifies a heart without also strengthening it. With every trial comes growth. With every tear comes reward. With every patient moment comes elevation. The chosen may walk a difficult path, but it leads upward. Their hearts are being prepared for a closeness that cannot coexist with arrogance, distraction, or false attachment. Allah removes what would block that closeness. What remains is a heart that is clean, sincere, and steady. Purification also teaches the believer to see Allah's hand in everything. Instead of asking why, the heart begins to ask how it can respond better. This shift brings peace. The believer stops resisting the test and starts learning from it. That acceptance allows the purification to complete its work. A resisting heart suffers more. A trusting heart grows faster. Allah's chosen learn to trust even when they do not understand. That trust is the sign of a purified heart. A purified heart does not depend on circumstances to feel secure. It depends on Allah. Whether in ease or hardship, it remains anchored. This stability is rare and it is earned through trials. Allah does not give it cheaply. He refines the heart again and again until it can carry this level of faith without breaking. This is why the chosen often endure more. Their hearts are being prepared for more. Do not envy the ease of others when your path feels heavy. You do not know what Allah is protecting you from or preparing you for. Your test is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of care. Allah sees potential in your heart that you may not yet see yourself. He is shaping it with wisdom, patience, and precision. In the end, Allah tests His chosen with what purifies the heart, because a purified heart is the greatest treasure a believer can possess. Wealth fades, people leave, and life changes, but a heart cleansed by Allah remains firm. That heart carries light in darkness, peace in hardship, and hope in uncertainty. And that is a gift far greater than comfort. Poverty weakens attachment to the dunya. Poverty is often misunderstood as a curse, but in many cases it is a shield Allah places around the hearts. He wants to protect. When wealth is limited, attachment to the dunya weakens naturally. The heart is no longer distracted by excess, competition, or constant comparison. Instead, it learns simplicity, gratitude, and reliance on Allah. A heart surrounded by luxury can easily forget its purpose, but a heart living with little remembers Allah often. Poverty strips away illusions of control and reminds the believer that provision comes only from Allah. This reminder is powerful. It humbles the soul and realigns priorities. When you own less, your heart clings less. And when your heart clings less to the dunya, it opens more fully to the akhirah. This is why many of Allah's chosen lived simple lives. Not because Allah could not give them wealth, but because wealth might have taken their hearts away from Him. The dunya is attractive, loud, and deceptive. It promises comfort but often delivers anxiety. Wealth can create the illusion of security, making the heart rely on possessions rather than the provider. Poverty removes that illusion. When there is little to lean on, the heart leans on Allah. That dependence is not weakness, it is clarity. The believer begins to see that real security was never in money, status or possessions. It was always in Allah's care. Poverty trains the heart to detach from what fades and attach to what remains. This detachment is not bitterness, it is freedom. The heart no longer measures its worth by what it owns, it measures it by its relationship with Allah. Many people chase wealth believing it will bring peace, but peace does not come from abundance, it comes from contentment. Poverty often forces contentment upon the heart. It teaches patience when desires are unmet and gratitude for even the smallest blessings. A heart that learns gratitude in poverty becomes rich in faith. It appreciates what others overlook. It finds joy where others feel entitled. This spiritual richness is far greater than material wealth. Allah knows that some hearts would be corrupted by excess, so He protects them through limitation. What appears as loss to the world is often mercy in disguise. The prophets themselves lived lives of simplicity. They experienced hunger, scarcity and hardship, yet their hearts were the richest of all. This teaches us that closeness to Allah does not require wealth. In fact, wealth can sometimes distance the heart if it becomes a distraction. Poverty removes layers of attachment that wealth builds. It teaches the believer to live lightly in this world, knowing it is temporary. When the heart stops clinging to the dunya, fear of losing it disappears. That freedom brings peace. The believer walks through life without being enslaved by possessions or status. Poverty also weakens arrogance. When a person has little, pride has no place to hide. The heart becomes humble, aware of its dependence on Allah and the kindness of others. This humility softens the soul. It increases compassion. It makes the believer gentle and understanding. These qualities are beloved to Allah. Wealth can sometimes harden the heart, making it forgetful of those who struggle. Poverty keeps the heart connected to human vulnerability and divine mercy. That connection is spiritually powerful. When Allah limits provision, He often expands awareness. The believer becomes more conscious of Allah's blessings, even in small forms. A meal, a roof, a moment of ease becomes a gift. This awareness strengthens faith. The heart no longer demands luxury. It appreciates necessity, and in that appreciation, attachment to the dunya fades. The believer begins to desire what benefits the soul rather than what pleases the ego. That shift is purification. Poverty teaches the heart that dignity does not come from possessions. True honor comes from taqwa. When the heart understands this, it no longer feels inferior because of what it lacks. It stands tall with faith. It finds confidence in Allah's pleasure rather than people's approval. This inner strength is rare and valuable. It cannot be bought. It is grown through patience and trust. Limitation also teaches balance. The believer learns to manage desires, control impulses, and live within means. This discipline protects the heart from greed and dissatisfaction. A disciplined heart is a peaceful heart. It does not constantly crave more. It is content with enough. And contentment is one of the greatest treasures of faith. Many hearts are destroyed not by poverty, but by obsession with wealth. Allah saves some hearts from this destruction by keeping them simple. The dunya becomes a place they pass through, not a place they build their identity in. Their hearts remain light, ready for the akhirah. This readiness is priceless. When poverty weakens attachment to the dunya, it strengthens attachment to Allah. The believer prays with sincerity, hopes with humility, and trusts with depth. That relationship becomes the heart's greatest wealth. No loss can take it away. No change can shake it. Do not assume that having less means being less loved by Allah. Sometimes it means being more protected. What you are spared from may be greater than what you are given. Allah knows which hearts need protection from excess. In the end, poverty weakens attachment to the dunya, so the heart can attach to what truly matters. And a heart attached to Allah is the richest heart of all. Loneliness strengthens reliance on Allah alone. Loneliness is one of the most misunderstood tests a believer can face. Many assume it is a punishment, but in reality, it is often an invitation from Allah to draw closer to Him. When people step away and voices grow silent, the heart is left with a choice: collapse into despair or rise into reliance on Allah. Those Allah loves are sometimes removed from crowds, so their hearts are not divided. In loneliness, distractions fade and sincerity emerges. The believer begins to speak to Allah more honestly, pray more deeply, and depend less on human reassurance. This reliance is powerful. It teaches the heart that comfort does not come from people, but from the Creator of people. When the heart learns this truth, it becomes stable. It no longer panics at absence or fears abandonment. It finds companionship in Allah, and that companionship is enough to sustain the soul through any silence. When a person is surrounded by others, reliance can quietly shift away from Allah without being noticed. Support, validation, and comfort begin to come from people instead of prayer. Loneliness removes these supports so the heart can realign. It teaches the believer that no human presence is guaranteed, but Allah's presence never leaves. This realization changes everything. The believer stops chasing people to fill an emptiness that only Allah can fill. In that space, faith deepens. Du'as become more sincere. Tears become more meaningful. Worship becomes more personal. Loneliness becomes the place where the heart relearns where its strength truly comes from. Many of the prophets experienced deep loneliness. Even while surrounded by people, they were misunderstood, rejected, and isolated because their hearts were attached to Allah above all else. That isolation strengthened their reliance. It made them fearless in truth and patient in hardship. Allah often separates His chosen so they are not diluted by worldly noise. In that separation, the heart becomes clear. It stops performing for people and starts living for Allah. This clarity brings strength. The believer becomes steady, no longer shaken by approval or rejection. Loneliness in this way becomes a training ground for unshakable faith. Loneliness also exposes where the heart was placing its trust. When people leave and expectations collapse, the believer sees clearly what was never meant to carry their emotional weight. This realization can be painful, but it is healing. Allah removes reliance on creation so the heart can return fully to the Creator. Once this return happens, the heart feels safer than before. Even if people never return, peace remains. That peace comes from knowing that Allah is enough. In solitude, the believer develops an intimate relationship with Allah. Conversations become longer. Reflection becomes deeper. The heart listens instead of rushing. This intimacy is difficult to achieve in constant company. Loneliness creates space for growth that crowds cannot provide. The believer learns to sit with themselves without fear because Allah is present. That presence fills the silence with meaning. Loneliness strengthens sincerity. When no one is watching, the believer's actions become purely for Allah. Worship is no longer influenced by praise or recognition. This purity strengthens faith. The heart becomes anchored in Allah's pleasure alone. That anchoring brings confidence. The believer no longer feels unseen because Allah sees everything. Through loneliness, the heart also learns patience. Waiting becomes easier. Dependence on instant comfort fades. The believer understands that Allah's timing is perfect even when companionship is delayed. This patience builds resilience. The heart becomes strong, not because it is surrounded, but because it is supported by Allah. Loneliness teaches emotional independence rooted in faith. The believer stops expecting people to heal wounds Allah alone can heal. This protects the heart from disappointment. When expectations lower, peace rises. The heart becomes balanced, no longer swinging between hope and heartbreak based on human behavior. In loneliness, gratitude also grows. Small blessings become visible. Moments of ease are appreciated. The believer recognizes Allah's care in subtle ways. This awareness deepens reliance. The heart sees that even in isolation, it is never deprived of Allah's mercy. Loneliness removes the illusion of control. The believer realizes they cannot force connection or companionship. This surrender strengthens tawakkul. The heart rests in Allah's plan rather than resisting it. That rest brings calm. As reliance on Allah increases, fear of abandonment decreases. The believer knows that Allah never leaves. This certainty creates emotional stability. Loneliness no longer feels threatening, it feels purposeful. With time, loneliness reshapes the believer. The heart becomes wiser, calmer, and more discerning. It no longer attaches quickly or depends blindly. It relies first on Allah, then appreciates people as blessings, not necessities. Loneliness also prepares the believer for leadership and strength. A heart that can stand alone with Allah can stand firm anywhere. This strength is rare and valuable. It is earned through solitude. When companionship eventually returns, the believer is healthier. They love without dependency and connect without losing themselves. Reliance on Allah remains the foundation. In the end, loneliness strengthens reliance on Allah alone, so the heart is never empty, never lost, and never weak. A heart that has Allah is never truly alone. Hardship elevates rank and cleanses sins. Hardship is one of Allah's most powerful tools for elevating the believer. Many see difficulty as punishment, yet Allah often uses it as purification and promotion. When a believer endures hardship with patience, every moment becomes an act of worship. Each tear washes away sin. Each sleepless night raises rank. Allah does not allow pain to touch a believing heart without wisdom behind it. Sometimes the believer has sins that cannot be erased by prayer alone, so Allah cleanses them through trials. This cleansing is mercy, not cruelty. The heart may ache, but the soul is being lifted. When the believer understands this, hardship is no longer meaningless suffering. It becomes a path to nearness, dignity and reward. Allah never wastes pain. He converts it into forgiveness and elevation for those who trust Him. When hardship enters a believer's life, it strips away arrogance and replaces it with humility. This humility is beloved to Allah. A humble heart is lighter, softer, and more sincere. Hardship bends the believer toward Allah, reminding them of their weakness and His strength. Through this bending, the heart becomes purified. Sins that weighed heavily on the soul are slowly removed. The believer may feel exhausted, but spiritually they are being renewed. Allah raises the rank of those who remain patient, not because they enjoy pain, but because they submit to Allah within it. That submission is rare and precious. Allah elevates some servants not through ease, but through endurance. Comfort does not always reveal faith, but hardship does. When everything is taken away except Allah, the believer discovers the depth of their reliance. That discovery raises them spiritually. Angels witness their patience. Their record fills with rewards they never asked for. What seems like loss in the dunya becomes profit in the akhirah. This exchange is divine generosity. Allah replaces suffering with elevation, moment by moment, unseen but guaranteed. Every hardship carries a hidden cleansing. Sins that would have burdened the believer on the day of judgment are removed here in the dunya. This is mercy disguised as difficulty. Allah prefers to meet His servant with forgiveness rather than punishment. So He allows trials that soften the heart, awaken repentance, and wash away mistakes. When the believer reaches the akhirah lighter than before, they will understand why Allah allowed what He did. What felt heavy in life will feel priceless in eternity. Hardship also teaches sincerity. When ease disappears, intentions become clear. Worship is no longer for habit or appearance. It becomes a lifeline. This sincerity elevates rank. Allah loves sincere hearts, especially those forged through pain. The believer prays not out of routine but need. That prayer carries weight. That prayer carries reward. Hardship transforms ordinary actions into extraordinary deeds. Some believers wonder why their trials are long. Often it is because Allah is building something great within them. Elevation takes time. Cleansing takes patience. Allah does not rush the purification of a heart He loves. Each day of hardship adds to the believer's honor. Each patient breath becomes a step upward. What looks like delay is divine preparation. Hardship also connects the believer to the suffering of others. This connection breeds compassion. A compassionate heart is elevated in Allah's sight. The believer becomes gentle, understanding, and merciful. These qualities are not easily learned through ease. They are shaped through pain, and Allah rewards those who grow kinder through hardship. When hardship cleanses sins, it also protects the believer from future punishment. What is endured in this world reduces what would have been faced in the next. Allah's justice is balanced with mercy. He gives the believer a chance to return purified rather than burdened. This is a gift even when it hurts. Hardship reminds the believer of the temporary nature of this world. This awareness elevates priorities. The believer stops chasing illusions and starts seeking Allah's pleasure. That shift raises rank instantly. Allah values hearts that see beyond the dunya. Hardship sharpens that vision. Even the smallest pain carries reward. A headache, a loss, a disappointment, all cleanse sins when met with patience. Nothing is insignificant in Allah's accounting. The believer's endurance is recorded in detail. This precision shows Allah's care. He sees every struggle and responds with elevation. Hardship also teaches gratitude. When ease returns, the believer appreciates it deeply. Gratitude itself raises rank. The believer becomes balanced, neither spoiled by comfort nor broken by pain. This balance is the sign of spiritual maturity. Some believers reach levels in Jannah they never expected. When they ask how, they will be told it was through hardships they patiently endured. That realization will erase every memory of pain. The reward will outweigh the struggle completely. Hardship separates true faith from claim. Those who remain patient are raised above those who complain. Allah honors patience because it reflects trust. Trust is the foundation of elevation. The believer who understands hardship walks through pain with dignity. They do not despair because they know Allah is elevating them. That knowledge strengthens the heart and steadies the soul. In the end, hardship elevates rank and cleanses sins because Allah wants to meet His servants purified, honored and raised. What breaks others becomes the very means through which the believer rises. Nearness to Allah is greater than comfort in life. Many people spend their lives chasing comfort, believing that ease is the ultimate sign of success and happiness. Yet Allah teaches us that comfort of the body is temporary, while nearness to Him is eternal. A person may live surrounded by luxury, yet feel empty inside, restless and anxious despite having everything. Another may live with little, facing hardship and struggle, yet their heart is calm and their soul is content. The difference is not what they possess, but who they are close to. Nearness to Allah fills the heart with a peace that comfort can never buy. Comfort fades with circumstances, but closeness to Allah remains steady in every situation. When the heart tastes that closeness, it realizes that true richness has nothing to do with ease. It has everything to do with faith, trust, and reliance on Allah alone. Comfort can distract the heart, while hardship often directs it back to Allah. When life is easy, the heart can become forgetful, relying on means instead of the one who provides them. But when comfort is removed, the heart turns upward, seeking Allah with sincerity. This turning is precious. Allah values the heart that remembers Him in difficulty more than the body that relaxes in luxury. Nearness to Allah sharpens awareness, increases humility and strengthens faith. A heart close to Allah finds peace even in discomfort because it knows it is never alone. That awareness outweighs every physical ease the dunya can offer. The prophets were the closest people to Allah, yet many of them lived lives of extreme hardship. They were tested with hunger, rejection, loneliness and loss. If comfort were the measure of Allah's love, they would have been the most comfortable people on earth. But Allah chose for them something far greater. He chose nearness. Their hearts were illuminated with certainty, patience and unwavering trust. They carried peace within themselves, even when their surroundings were harsh. This teaches us that closeness to Allah is not found in ease, but in faith. Comfort did not define their lives. Connection to Allah did. When a believer prioritizes nearness to Allah, their definition of success changes. They no longer measure life by possessions, status or comfort. They measure it by sincerity, patience and trust. Even when life feels heavy, their heart remains light. Even when circumstances are difficult, their soul feels secure. This is because nearness to Allah anchors the heart. Comfort floats and disappears, but faith roots itself deeply. A rooted heart cannot be shaken by loss of ease. Nearness to Allah also reshapes how pain is experienced. Pain no longer feels meaningless. It becomes a form of communication between the servant and the Creator. Through pain, the believer draws closer, prays more sincerely, and reflects more deeply. That closeness brings healing that comfort never could. Comfort may soothe the body, but nearness heals the soul. And the soul is what truly carries a person through life. Many people fear hardship because they think it will take away their happiness. But happiness built on comfort is fragile. It collapses when comfort disappears. Happiness built on nearness to Allah is resilient. It remains even when life is difficult. The believer understands that Allah's presence is constant while comfort is temporary. This understanding creates inner strength. The heart becomes stable, no longer dependent on circumstances to feel peace. Comfort can make the heart lazy, while nearness to Allah keeps it alive. A heart close to Allah remains alert, grateful and humble. It recognizes blessings without being spoiled by them. It accepts hardship without being broken by it. This balance is rare and it comes from connection, not convenience. Allah gives this balance to those who choose Him over comfort. Nearness to Allah also frees the believer from fear of loss. When comfort is the goal, loss becomes terrifying. But when Allah is the goal, loss becomes manageable. The believer knows that even if ease disappears, Allah remains. This certainty calms the heart. It removes desperation and replaces it with trust. The believer stops clinging tightly to what can be taken away and holds firmly to what never leaves. The dunya constantly invites people to seek comfort first, but Allah invites believers to seek Him first. When Allah is placed at the center, everything else finds its proper place. Comfort becomes a bonus, not a necessity. And when comfort is absent, the heart does not collapse. It remains upright because its foundation is Allah. Nearness to Allah also brings clarity. The believer begins to see life as a journey, not a destination. Comfort becomes a tool, not a goal. Hardship becomes a lesson, not a punishment. This clarity reduces anxiety. The heart stops racing after what others have. It becomes satisfied with what Allah has written. Those who prioritize comfort often feel empty once they achieve it. Those who prioritize nearness to Allah feel fulfilled even while striving. This fulfillment comes from purpose. The believer knows why they live, why they struggle, and where they are going. Comfort cannot give purpose. Allah does. When nearness to Allah fills the heart, gratitude increases. Small blessings feel immense. Simple moments feel meaningful. The believer no longer needs excess to feel content. Contentment itself becomes the reward. This contentment is one of the greatest gifts Allah gives to His servants. Nearness to Allah also strengthens patience. When the heart feels close to Him, waiting becomes easier. Trials become bearable. The believer knows that Allah is aware, watching and rewarding. That knowledge eases the weight of difficulty. Comfort may delay patience, but nearness builds it. Even when comfort exists, the believer who values Allah does not become attached to it. They enjoy ease with gratitude and release it without resentment. Their heart remains steady because it was never built on comfort, it was built on faith. This steadiness is true strength. A heart close to Allah does not envy the comfort of others. It understands that everyone has a different test. Some are tested with ease, others with hardship. The believer focuses on their own relationship with Allah, not the appearance of others' lives. This focus brings peace. Nearness to Allah also brings humility. The believer recognizes that every blessing comes from Him. Pride fades. Arrogance disappears. The heart remains soft and grateful. Comfort often feeds pride, but nearness dissolves it. When comfort is removed, the believer who knows Allah does not panic. They return to prayer, remembrance and trust. These acts restore peace quickly. The heart knows where to turn. That knowledge is priceless. Those who walk close to Allah experience a peace that words cannot fully describe. It is not loud happiness or constant pleasure. It is quiet assurance, a deep sense that everything will be okay because Allah is in control. Comfort cannot give this assurance. Nearness to Allah prepares the heart for the akhirah. Comfort belongs to this world, but closeness belongs to eternity. The believer chooses what lasts over what fades. That choice shapes the soul. In the end, comfort may make life easier, but nearness to Allah makes life meaningful. Ease may satisfy the body, but closeness satisfies the soul. And a satisfied soul needs nothing else. My dear brothers and sisters, do not measure Allah's love by what you own or who stands beside you. Measure it by the depth of your patience, the strength of your faith, and the sincerity of your connection with Him. Poverty and loneliness are not signs of rejection. Many times they are signs of refinement. Allah strips away what distracts the hearts He wants to elevate. When comforts are few and companionship is rare, the heart learns to rely on Allah alone. In that reliance, faith becomes unshakable and the soul grows rich in ways the dunya can never offer. The people Allah loves most are often protected from excess, because excess can harden the heart while simplicity keeps it soft and sincere. So if your path feels quiet and your life feels heavy, remain steadfast. Your struggle is not wasted and your loneliness is not unseen. Allah is shaping you for a nearness far greater than comfort and a reward far greater than applause. Hold on with sabr, walk with humility, and trust that what Allah has chosen for you is exactly what will raise you highest.